So I've got my cup of tea, I've got all my supplies out ahead of me, I'm up, dressed, showered. I think it's time to do some crafting. My name is Helen Jennings. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator based here in the UK. And what shall we make today? Let's see. So I've got a whole bundle of products in front of me. But what we're going to use as a main focus for our crafting this morning is this Snowman season stamp set and the punch that goes with it. So these were a stamp set and punch bundle that we had last Christmas that have carried over. They're actually in the annual catalogue, so we can still continue playing with them and get started on our Christmas cards here in July while we wait for new Christmas things to come through. So that's what we're going to have a little bit of a play with. I've got an idea for a couple of cards. The basics of the cards are both the same. I've cut a piece of Whisper White matte and a Seaside Spray matte for both cards, and I've got a Whisper White standard size card base for both cards. So the starting point for both of those cards is the same background, but a couple of different techniques that we're going to use as we build up those cards. So let me pop some of these bits to one side so that we can see. You can see I've got stencils and scrap paper. That was always meant to be scrap paper just as well. I've got my Stamparatus and a very odd shade of coloured cards to go with everything else that we're playing with today with the Snowman season, but there is method in my madness. Right, now then, one other thing I want to grab is these, or do I? Actually, no, we're not going to use the water brushes today. Change of plan. We are actually going to be using sponges, so I think we'll stick with sponges all round. So in my little box here, I have got, so this is one of the half-size boxes, I've got my little in colour sponges, so my 2019 to 2021 in colour sponges and sponge daubers. So I've got all of those in there. For the bigger colour families, the subtles and the brights, I've got a bigger case, but for the in colours, just one of the smaller cases is perfect. And I am going to take one of these pieces of Whisper White card and I'm going to take a Seaside Spray ink pad, and I'm going to hopefully open my Seaside Spray ink pad. Now what I am going to do for a moment is I am going to move my grid paper, because underneath I have got rather grubby looking, but nevertheless I have got a glass mat. And when it comes to sponging, it is quite valuable to have something like a glass or a plastic mat underneath that doesn't slurp up the ink, because if you are inking over the top of paper, what happens is that the paper grabs the ink, whereas if you are working on something like a glass mat or a plastic mat of some sort, it doesn't. The ink sits on the top and it means that it spreads around a little bit easier and your ink goes a little bit further. So I'm going to take my Seaside Spray sponge and I'm going to daub it into my ink pad, and then starting off of the edge I'm going to come in a sort of circular motion, adding ink to my cardstock, trying not to get ink off of my fingertips. I'm going to bring that all the way around and I'm going to gradually build up this background. And the nice thing about having a sponged background rather than just using the Seaside Spray card is it's obviously a much subtler colour, It does give sort of almost like a cloudy background to it. Tickle, tickle. Don't want to be too hard. It is just a sort of soft, tickly, circular motion. You can go back in and add more ink and build up the colour. It is a lot more difficult to go in and take it off. We're just building that up. And again, this gives a different effect again to what you would get with a brayer. So with a brayer, you would get slightly more solid sort of colour. And we'll just carry on building that up until we're happy with that background colour. To come in slightly darker on this side, I think. It was nice how it picks up more colour around the edges, so you get sort of that almost frame of colour where it picks it up on that edge as you bring your sponge over, and then just gradually bringing in that softness of that colour. Now I'm going to take, I've got here the basic pattern decorative masks, and we have some beautiful masks in here, and we've got the trees and that sort of scrolly pattern and this almost leafy type geometric pattern, and then we have spots. Now I'm going to put in some spots of snow in the background there, but I don't want to cover it all necessarily. I just want a section in the middle. Let me just grab my palette knife. Let's open up the embossing paste. There we go. And let me see. It will come in on an angle just there. I'm going to scoop up some of the embossing paste on my knife. Then I'm not going to start right at the edge. I'm going to sort of start centrally just here somewhere and just put down some embossing paste, and I want it to be fairly random. So let's scrape off the excess, pop that back down in the pot, pop our lid on nice and tight, and then let's lift this up, and we just have that sort of random spotty background in the background. I'm just going to wipe this off with some kitchen towel. What I should have done is brought a little bowl of water with me so that I could have popped this straight into some water. I don't think I've even got much water in my spritzer to be able to spritz it. I'm going to lay it on top of my Simply Chamois for now. That will just, or lay my Simply Chamois on top of it. That will just continue to keep that wet until such a time as I can get to wash it off properly. And the same with my knife, I can give that a bit of a wipe and put that there. So there we have our blue background, some spotty snow going on the top. So I'm going to leave that to one side for a minute to dry, and then I'm going to bring in, let's bring back in my grid paper for now. We don't need the other stencils, we'll tuck those out of the way. And I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus. And I'm going to bring in this very random piece of cardstock. So I've just grabbed a piece of cardstock out of my oddment pile, and I'm going to just punch that snowman out of there, and that will now give me a template for my Stamparatus that I will be able to keep. For some reason I hadn't got a snowman one. I did look through my templates, but obviously somewhere along the line my snowman one had gone missing, and I'm going to pop that in my Stamparatus and anchor it down with my magnets. I have got the sponge mat with the grid already in my Stamparatus, so it is ready for photopolymer stamps. And then we're going to find our little stamps that we need to make a past snowman. So there we have a snowman body, and here we have his little hands. So one can come there, and one can come there, and then we want his hat. Now we haven't got a stamp for the carrot, but that's okay. We don't really need a stamp for the carrot. I'm going to shut that down, embossing paste on my finger, and lift up those stamps like that. And then we will just take a piece of Whisper White card. Ooh. And we will punch out our little elements that we now want to stamp. So there's our body. There's our hat. There's one little arm. And there is the other. Now I have a little nose just there, but we don't have a stamp to colour that, so we'll just leave that just there for now. A quick slurp of our tea, obviously very important. I'm actually going to have a look and see. Yes, I have, in my little collection of stamping spots that I've gathered along the way, I have actually got a soft suede. Now little stamping spots are really good for doing bits on your Stamparatus, because they're just, if you're just doing little tiny sections on your Stamparatus, because they are that bit smaller, you can pick up smaller stamps. Now soft suede is not one that currently you can get individually, but what we can get is the plain stamping spots that you can then re-ink for colour you like. This has obviously come in a kit somewhere along the line. I've gathered this one up. So I'm just going to use this little stamping spot to just pick up the snowman's arms so that we can make them sort of twiggy. So let's just stamp those. So we have one little twiggy arm and two little twiggy arms. So let's pop those just there with our carrot. In fact, I'm going to pick up one of my little trays and we will put these bits in here so that they don't wander off and get lost on our table. So let's put the top back on that little stamping spot. So as I say, although you can't get a soft suede one, you can get a plain stamping spot that you can then ink up with soft suede ink and create little spots. Now what we're going to do is for the snowman's body and the snowman's hat, I'm going to ink them up with Memento. So it won't matter that this ink then goes over one of those sticks because there isn't anything for that to stamp into. Oh, has that moved? I do believe it has. That looks better, doesn't it? It obviously moved as we picked the stamps up. So there's our hat, and here is our jolly little snowman. So as I say, this I will then pop into the front pocket of my Stamparatus, along with all the other little templates I've got in there, ready for when we want to stamp him again. So let's just take that out of there, ready to clean up in a little while. We'll pop our lid back on our Memento, and then I'm going to bring in, I've got a little collection of stamping blends here. Now I shan't necessarily want all of them with this snowman, but we will see how we go. So let's colour him in. Obviously, snowmen generally are quite white from the snow, so we're not going to do a lot of colouring in on his body as such. But we are going to take a dark pumpkin pie and just colour in his nose. We did have that little punched nose we could have added as a 3D element, but actually I think that little nose is quite cute. I'm going to take the dark real red actually, and just colour in the holly berries on his hat. And then I'm going to take the light mossy meadow and just add in the little leaves for the holly. Just those two little leaves there. He has got a band on his hat. I'm trying to think what colours I brought over with me. Let's go for the light pretty peacock. I think we'll do his hat band. We could have made that stripy, we could have made it two-tone, but we'll just add in a little bit of light peacock. And then I'm going to take the dark basic black and colour in his hat. Because it is so small, I'm not actually going to worry too much about adding in light and dark and shading. I'm more interested in just getting some colour down on there. So there he's got a little black top hat with his holly. And then I'm going to take the light seaside spray and I'm just going to go around the edge of the snowman. And just a little bit where this shading is, just to give him a little bit of definition and to help him to pop out of the background. So you don't want a lot, just a little bit round the edge And I'm also thinking I might, a colour I haven't picked up, I'm going to pick up the light petal pink. And I'm just going to give him a bit of a touch of a rosy cheek, I think. There, he's very cute, isn't he? So let's have a look. So our spots are quite nicely dried now while we've been doing that. And we have our fun little snowman that we're going to sit on the top of those with his twiggy arms. We will put him so that his hat isn't covering his eyes when we stick him on. Quite like this big Let It Snow. Bring in our base as we're starting to build it up and decide what we want on it and where we want it. We have got a couple of seaside spray options in ribbons, so we've either got the scalloped lace, the linen scalloped one, or we do have this rather gorgeous glittery one that we might bring in there somewhere. So Let It Snow. Let's find a little label or something that we can I've had lots of my dies out getting prepared for things, so they're not where they would normally be. There we are. There's the little tasteful labels. I'm really loving this set. I think that one's a bit too small. So we could either have that one, or if we wanted to go a bit bigger we could have that one. But I think we're going to go with this one. Let's put those others back on the mat. Just die cut that label. I have used these labels over and over again. They are so useful. So many options for all the different sentiments and things. What I might do is actually trim that end off so that we have got, let's find my mini trimmer. I'm just going to line up those corners in my mini trimmer and chop that off so that that is going to be flat edged and will sit on that side just there. So then we've got our Let It Snow stamp. What colour? Shall we go seaside spray or shall we go black? I think I'm going to go black. I'm going to go with the memento. And then I think we'll sponge around the edge of that as well to keep that in keeping with our background. So Let It Snow. Beautiful. This is the point at which we go from being very organised to, oh, where has my sponge gone? We can only maintain organised for a short amount of time before it all goes completely pear-shaped and we revert to crafty disorganisation. Now, rather than move my brought in my silicone mat there because that, like the glass, won't soak the ink up, will allow it to sit on the top and move around more freely. Let it snow. Now, in the new catalogue there's some beautiful snowflakes and things that you'd perhaps be able to add in if you wanted to the background here. Haven't got those yet. But let's stick this down in place. Start to build our little card up. So fairly simple. It's got nice texture in it. Let It Snow, I think, will pop up on some dimensionals. Just going to snip those, using up edge pieces like you do. Don't ever want to waste your dimensionals. Make sure you use all those edge pieces. You want to make sure that that sheet is completely clear before you put it in the bin. So we'll pop our Let It Snow just there. Now I think my little snowman I'm going to pop onto some glue dots. I don't necessarily want him to be standing ever so proud. I think I should put his hat on a dimensional, but because we've got the spots already in the background, it will be useful just to have that little tiny bit of dimension that the glue dots give you as I'm sticking him on. So we'll put him about there. His little arms we'll add some Tombow to. And we'll have one coming up here. And one down that way, and then we'll take another piece of our snipped up dimensional, pop that on there, and I think we'll take some of our glittery seaside spray ribbon, and I'm just going to snip a couple of bits of that. And we'll pop one across the back here. Let's get rid of that excess. Bring that over. Is that looking about even? I think so. Stick that on the back there, and then with our other little bit, we'll bring that under here. And just give it tie it into a knot and slip it along there just a little bit. That's the nice thing about having knots rather than bows, is that you can just slip them into place. We'll give that a bit of a trim so it's not quite so long. I'll have it coming at a bit of an angle, just like that. And then we'll sit that on our card base. A little bit of double-sided tape just sticking out there. Let's just tuck that in. We don't want that sticking out just there. So there we are. A fun little Let It Snow textured embossed snowy scene with that cute little snowman on the top. So that is one. I'm just going to open my back door. It's getting quite warm in here. That's one of our little snowmen for today. Let's have a look at what we're going to do with the other one. So I'm going to take my white card base like this, and this time I'm going to stamp this cute little snowman just here. So let's bring in my piercing mat and let's choose a block that's going to be suitable for that little snowman. And let's ink him up. So he's very cute. He's very celebratory of the snow that's falling all around him. He seems to be enjoying that. So I'm going to put him fairly centrally, just to one side slightly, but centrally top and bottom on that piece of cardstock. There he is. Then I'm going to take my piece of scrap paper, which is just here, and I'm literally going to tear a couple of pieces off of it and have them sitting how do I want them? Do I want flat edge there? I can wiggle that round a little bit, so about like that, I think. Just going to take, so you could take some washi tape or some low tack tape. Whatever works for you, and then let's sort our workspace out. So I'm going to pop my memento out of the way, I'm going to pop the punch out of the way. Let's put all these things out of the way, put the lid back on the glue. Let's organise ourselves a little bit, because I want to move my grid paper again. I'm going to bring back in my snowman, line up that paper where I want it. I want to make sure that my tape is not sticking over the paper just here, that torn edge, so it can be holding down this paper here, sort of an angle across that corner, but not actually touching on there. Right, so now we're going to bring back in our Seaside spray and our sponge. We're going to have a slurp of tea. And once more, what I should have perhaps done is anchor down that bit of card before I started, but I'll keep my finger there and hold on to it so it's not going anywhere. So we're just going to come in to take the sponging up towards the snowman. You can come over these snowflakes here, but we don't actually want to ink over the snowman himself. See here where that's curling up, that it's leaving a nice white mark underneath, which is what we want. Oh, come back to us. Should definitely have anchored down the card underneath first. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. Let's just bring that in, as I say, so that we're leaving our snowman as much as possible. Twiggy arm bits don't matter so much, but okay, let's lift this off now. And what we've got is a nice sort of torn paper effect with our snowman top and bottom. I caught the corner of that with the block, but we will work on that in a moment. Let's bring in some more of our stamping blends and let's have a look. Once more, we're going to colour in his nose with some pumpkin pie. Got to have a carrot nose. I've brought in a bit of light grey granite here that I'm just going to use to colour these little rocks just here, and perhaps put down a little bit of shading just under there. I'm going to bring in our dark mossy meadow and just add in a bit of green to our tree. I think we're going to go Pretty Peacock and Just Jade for hat and scarf. So I think I'm going to give him Pretty Peacock stripes. It's obviously a very on-trend snowman. He's got in-colour accessories. Let's come in with Just Jade. So again, I'm just using the one colour, I'm not swapping and doing shading with the light and dark. And again, around his hat. What I might do for the actual top of the hat, I might come round with the dark Just Jade and then fill in the centre there with the light. Just so that that's a little bit of a change in shade from the stripes around the edge. Looking cute. Again, we'll take the light soft spray and we're just going to come round the edges just to help him to pop a little bit off of the background, give a bit of shading to the snowman. Here he is. Just going to grab the dark soft suede. I think we'll just add in some colour on his twiggy arms. And I'm going to come in with the dark pretty peacock and add in a bit of colour on his pom-pom. Beautiful. Right, what I do think I will do, so I'm just going to add those stripes back in like that, because one of the other things that's in this stamp set is a couple of sort of snowy stamps. I'm going to take this slightly bigger snowy stamp, I think, and again we'll take the Seaside Spray and just tone on tone we'll add in some snowflakes in the background there. I'm going to take this big Merry Christmas, because that will help to cover up our boo-boo at the top there. We're just going to do it in black on the white, or do we want a banner? I think I'm just going to go for the black on the white. So let's just bring in our block. And our Memento ink. Merry Christmas. Then we've got another little greeting here that says, hoping this season builds heartwarming memories. So we could have that coming across the bottom here. Just like that. So let's take our combo and we will stick that to our Seaside Spray background, and then we'll bring in our Whisper White card base. I've left my snips on the other side of the room, which is why I'm having to go for non-snip scissors. busy making up kits yesterday for classes in the post, and I was snipping ribbon and things. There we go. Let's pop him on there. And I think we'll just just going to grab some rhinestones, but they seem to have gone walkabouts. Where are you, rhinestones? It's a very odd thing to have go walkabout, because there's normally lots of those about. Oh, there's a few little ones on there, that will do. And I'm going to take the dark seaside spray and just in the brush end, just going to add a little touch of colour to those rhinestones. They're not going to be in your face a darker colour, just a slight different shade. Let's have 3. With just a hint of blue, hint of iciness about them. And we'll just scatter a few of those around. Ooh. So there we have 2 white card bases with a seaside spray mat, standard card size, 1 Snowman season stamp set with coordinating punch and a few little products and sponging and a bit of a playing about, and we get a couple of really cute Christmas cards. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Do come back and join me another day when we try to decide what we're going to make.